I'm practicing.
You're practicing?
We need to learn how to do beatbox so we can beatbox along the song.
Sure.
Can I get a hallelujah?
Get it?
Can I get an amen? Feels like the Holy
I have a new obsession. No, it's actually not a new obsession. I want to learn how to play. I want to learn how to have a perfect hearing, perfect ear. I think it's called in English. Yeah.
How's tennis going?
Hey, tennis is going great. I'm a pro. I had a match last week. I lost.
Are you ready?
Almost.
All right. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to Content is Profit. Fonzie, as usual, not ready. I'm going to throw him under the bus today.
That's fine.
But it's all good. How are you doing? If you're tuning in live, make sure you share the love in the comments. Put hashtag live, hashtag replays. Thank you so much for the love in the last 2 weeks of the show. I cannot, I'm so excited. The first week that we announced that we're part of the Hotspot Podcast Network, just 6 days, we did more than the best month ever before that. So that was super awesome.
Does that mean we need to announce new stuff every week?
I think so.
Well, we got a pretty cool announcement next week sometime. My brother's about to have a second baby.
I know. Can you tell? Can you tell? Like my belly?
If we can get a whole bunch of downloads because of that, that'll be pretty cool.
That would be great. I know. Yes, we got to see how we turn that into an asset. We
need to create
the birth of the baby live from the hospital. Maybe we can make that happen.
Live show from the hospital.
Right.
That'd be cool. Your wife would love that.
That's for next week. Today we have a very special guest. I cannot wait to share more about it because her story resonates a lot. Right, Fonzie?
Yeah.
You're what are we talking about? Are you awake? How's your caffeine?
Yeah, it's tough. I told you I went to sleep pretty late. My girlfriend is out of town. And she goes to sleep super early, always. And now I'm
freedom.
Yeah, I went to sleep at 3:30 a.m.
Monday, come back.
Yeah, 3:30 a.m.
Please.
Watching some YouTube videos of this guy playing the piano. It was so good. It was so cool.
Monday, come back. Please, we need productive Fonzie back.
Yeah.
All right, with that said, I think we're ready to rock and roll. You ready, Fonz?
Let me put the right intro in here and let's do this.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Fonzie.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast,
where we talk about entrepreneurship, mindset, and of course, how to turn your content into profit.
But most importantly, I don't get why Fonzie is laughing. We're here to have a good time with you. Maybe it's that. What's up?
Oh, guys, make sure you go to contentsprofit.com to get started today and join the community.
Why are you laughing?
I'm cracking up because your hey was so loud. It was
maybe
0 to 100 real quick.
Hey, baby, it's Content is Profit. It's Friday, and the buddy knows it.
Yeah, it's Friday. It is Friday, guys. And today we have a very special guest.
What are we going to talk about?
A very special topic.
Yeah,
we're going to be talking all about building a six-figure business with less than 1,000 followers. Ooh, and I'm sure that the principles we're gonna learn about today are gonna let you grow even beyond six figures.
I know.
I think it's gonna be absolutely what we call hashtag juicy.
Hashtag juicy. Guys, if you're enjoying this show, go ahead and follow it in your favorite platform. Make sure to submit your reviews, your things, your feedback, because the love that we've been getting in the last couple of weeks has been incredible. So it just makes the show so much better. So go ahead and follow. Let us know on social media as well at BeastBrosGo. We're here for you.
That is right. And if today's guests help you move one step forward towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode with 3 friends. That is your ticket of admission. Thank you.
Do you believe you need a big following to crack profit? Think that again, my friend. Today's guest is about to challenge your social media beliefs, and I hope you're ready for it.
Oh, yeah. And I hope you have pen and paper in hand, just like me right here, as today's guest shares how to grow to 6 figures with a small audience of less than 1,000 people. Insane. Totally insane.
Is that how you say that? Insane in there?
No, you say, how I have it written here is insane. Same.
There you go. Oh, yeah. Today's guest is the host of the Global Phenomenon podcast, where she has interviewed people like John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire, Pat Flynn, and some other epic legends.
Yeah, she knows.
She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, she knows. She got experience in the podcasting world, I can tell. And not to mention that she is a fellow Venezuelan entrepreneur. Let's go. Please welcome super mom entrepreneur and your next engagement coach, Ina Coveney. Let's go.
You guys are crazy. You guys are insane.
Was that good? Was that good or what?
That was awesome.
I'm just happy that we pronounced your name properly. And I'm not, you know when like the right moment when something is about to happen that you have like 1,000 thoughts, in like 0.2 milliseconds. Well, right about I was about to say your name. I literally was recapping the whole conversation we had behind the scenes.
Don't you even.
On how not to say your name. And I was
Don't you even do that
don't
to
say
me.
it.
Don't you even do that to me. It's like they tell you, don't think of a pink elephant, and that's the first thing that you think about.
Exactly.
No, don't even joke with me about that, because it's so hard to get people to stop calling me Aina after it's in their head. You guys, it's Ina. Rhymes with Tina. Rhymes with
Ina.
Tina. It's
That's
Ina.
right. So if
Yeah.
you're listening right now, repeat after us. Ina.
Ina.
One more time.
Thank you.
Ina.
Ina.
Alright, cool.
So it is.
This turned into like Dora the Explorer now.
I know.
No,
I mean-
it's really tough, because most people that see my name for the first time, they see it written down, so they make their own interpretation.
Yeah.
I've started signing on Instagram EENA. I'm like, just in your head, say it right.
Yeah, I
makes
love
sense.
it. Well,
That's good.
Katie, my wife, she called me the wrong, Luis for probably 5 years of our relationship, because how I introduced myself when I first came into this country was like, hey, my full name is like Luis Daniel, right? Like full Venezuelan, like double name, right?
Right.
And I'm like, well, hey, I'm Luis. And they're like, what? Luis? I'm like, sure. Like, I just like went with it. And Katie's like, you introduce yourself to me as Luis and not Luis. And it was like, for the first 5 years, I did not pay
No.
attention to it. And anyways, but it's fixed. It's
It's
fixed.
fixed. Did you fix that? Because that
Yes.
sounds like something that needs to be fixed.
No, it was fixed. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good now.
Now he just call him. Now he just call him Jose.
Yeah, so random. But anyways, like, I'm so excited that we connected. Our good friend Adam, always the
yeah.
connector,
I
and
know.
we chatted a little bit like offline, right? Like, we have some friends in common in back home, which is crazy.
Isn't that okay? Okay, you know how when you meet someone who is Venezuelan, and then you're like, oh, I have a friend who's Venezuelan. Maybe you guys like know the same people, and you're like, I know
Yeah.
it's a big country, right? Like, and it turns out like your mom works with my aunt, and they've
Yeah.
done it for years, and we're like, what? So yeah,
Yes.
that was kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's a small world after all.
But I'm very interested for you to share a little bit of your story, right? Like, you came to this country. Now you're this amazing coach. You help people, and you're breaking barriers in many ways. But I'm really interested on your background and why you decided to, choose this path of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So first of all, let's start with none of this, like coaching, being an entrepreneur. I did not grow up with any of this. I don't know about you guys, but like I grew up watching my parents have a very, very corporate life, and I thought that was like the only way to be, is just to do that. But once I got out into the workplace, it's just you kind of start to get like that itch that is like, is this it? Like, is this all there is? Right? Once you start making enough money that you're buying yourself the things that you wanted to buy yourself, like once you start to feel like, wow, like this was it, this is all I worked all my life for, and I'm only 23, right? It's like, what am I supposed to do with the rest of my life? So it started to feel like my life had already been carved out for me. Like somebody had already decided that for the next 30 years, this is what my life was going to be like. And then I was going to retire, and then that was going to be the end. And like, I don't understand how that can be, but I had no other examples. I didn't have anybody else showing me what else I could be doing. So I just started experimenting. I'm like, okay, well, this is my job. This is my life. There's nothing I can do about it. So let's just learn a few more things. So I took French classes, like in adulthood. I took French. I took violin. I picked up the piano. I started learning about medical terminology. Like I started just like volunteer. I volunteered at hospitals. I volunteered at
Wow.
I volunteered at suicide hotline. Like I was just trying to find myself while I had a full-time job.
Like, what
Right?
made you like how do you decide to go about that and try different things, right? Because I remember, out of college, our dream was to always be professional soccer players. I decided before college that I was not going to be the thing, but you had those 4 years and I played, and then after that, it became really real. When I graduated, I'm like, crap, what now, right? I think I gotta make that decision now. And I remember listening to this video of I think it was like Ty Lopez, and then the guy that does all the dirty jobs in Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, if you don't know what to do, just go try a bunch of stuff, right? But somebody I had to hear it from somebody. It didn't come from within, right? So like, was this something, because in publishing, right, or in content or in business, right, like there's a lot of that. Like we've
Yeah.
transitioned our business a few times, if cycled
Right.
a few times. So how do you go about it? Was it something that was born like from within, or
It was nobody suggested it to me. It was more like I almost felt like I was in a box and all I knew were these four walls, but I knew that I was in a box. So without knowing what is outside of it, you don't know what you're supposed to step into. So I just started trying things. So like the violin, for example, I just started to have that like quarter life crisis where I'm like, I need to really think about what I want, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things was like I like pointing fingers at my parents. You guys never give me violin lessons. And they're like, what are you talking about? You've never said the word violin in your life, right? So it's
Yeah.
just started just looking back at things and saying, I've always wanted to do this and I've always wanted to do that. So just like go and try it. For some people, it might be like parasailing and it might be jumping out of a plane. For me, it was just learning things. And I will say this, there was one class in college. It was my network security class. I went to school for computer science. And in my network security class, the teacher assigned you a concept and you were supposed to come next week and teach it to the class.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
and that was really cool because they give you something that you have no idea about and you're supposed to present it next week. It taught me that, you know what, I actually can learn anything I want to learn if I really want to. So I think that kind of opened that up in me, like that feeling that yes, I could do it if I really really set my heart to it. So entrepreneurship actually came about that way. I had just had a baby, and I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but when you're in corporate, you really don't get a lot of vacation time. At the time, I think I had like 2 weeks of vacation per year at
Oh, wow.
that time. Maybe I had 3 and that was like too much. So when I went on maternity leave, all of a sudden, I didn't see it as, oh, I am a new mother and I have to change diapers and sleep very little and figure out this whole motherhood thing. I saw it as, oh my God, it's a 3-month vacation, right? It's like, it's 3 months to figure out my life, that maternity leave time. Turns out I did spend the first 2 months trying to figure out motherhood. But for the last month, I was like, this is it. This is my last chance. Because after this, I go back to a job where I'm working 9 to 5, where I don't get any time off. So this is it. So that's when I started making websites out of, like, a friend of mine needed help. So I helped her with it and she paid me. And I'm like, no, you don't have to pay me. I did this because you asked me for a favor and I know HTML, right? And she's like, no, I'm a business. You're a vendor. I'm paying you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize this was a thing. And that's when I started making websites. But this whole online world didn't actually open up for me until like 5 years later when I discovered Amy Porterfield, and her podcast. That was the gateway. That was like, that's when I felt like I got out of the box. That's when I'm like, oh my God, yes, there are people outside the box making money, as much money as they want, doing whatever they want. And I was sold, but it took me years to get there.
Interesting. It reminds me a little bit of the story of Robert Greene, the author, the 48 Laws of Power, and he has a bunch of very famous books. But I'm not gonna dive too much into that. But the story pretty much is that he went and he tried like 60 different jobs before he became an author. He's like,
Yeah.
I always wanted to write, but he's like, I think it was at school they told him that he wasn't good enough. And
Yeah.
then he just went, let me just try a whole bunch of different stuff, like 60 different jobs. How crazy that is, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually he managed to, get a publisher to sponsor his book, and he went on ahead, and now he is like a massive, right? He's super renowned, just, yeah, very, very famous.
And there's always that person in your life who's going to tell you that this is not going to work out for you. And usually, depending on the person, usually the person is trying to protect you, right? Because they wouldn't see that path clearly for themselves. So they
Mhm.
want to protect you from it, which from our end, it just looks like, man, you don't believe in me, right? From their end is, no, man, you could be just making more money if you just focus on your job, if you do what you're told. If
Yeah.
when I was working in corporate, I actually took my own boss out to lunch. He was the owner of the company. So I'm like, hey, he's an entrepreneur. I make websites. He owns an agency making websites, right? I'm going to pick his brain. I'm going to ask him, what do you think I should do with my business? Because I'm not sure that I actually want to grow it to an agency, but what should I do with it? I had no idea. Coaching was not even in the realm of like, I
Yeah.
hadn't even think about coaching at that time. I
Yeah.
took him out to lunch. I'm like, I just want to pick your brain about this. And he legit told me that, some people are just really good employees. And some people like have more of an entrepreneurial style. And he looked at me and he fell short of telling me you fall in the entrepreneurial bucket. He was trying to like lead me into what he was saying. He's like, so I don't know which one you are. Kind of like trying to get me to say, like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. And I'm like, dude, you clearly don't see me the way that I see me. And
Yeah.
that was a big like wake
Wow.
up call for me.
Yeah. You mentioned that's pretty important, right? Like the way I see myself. And actually, I heard this story yesterday while scrolling aimlessly through TikTok. But it was a pretty cool story, right? Is this guy, he was being interviewed by Tom Bilyeu, and the guy shared the story of, I think it was one of his clients, that when he was growing up, he was like one of those like problem kids, like terrible at school, just like always getting into trouble. And their parents were like, what are we going to do with this kid? And the year before he graduated, he's like, I'm just going to take an SAT. So the kid goes like no studying or anything, does the SAT, and he gets like a 1480, something like that, which is pretty high.
Right.
And the mom is like, okay, did you cheat? And he's like, well, I tried to cheat, but it was very difficult. So no, I this is what I got, the result. And after that moment, the kid decided, wow, I'm smart, right? Because previously during his life, everybody was saying, oh, he's a problem kid, blah, blah, blah. So he was living in that environment.
Yeah.
Now that he got proof that he was smart, he's like, oh man, maybe I can act like a, maybe, and I'm air quotes in here, like a smart kid, and go to class, pay attention, change my environment, change my friends, right? And he went on to go to like an Ivy League school, became a pretty successful entrepreneur. Crazy, right? Well, turns out when he, like years later, I don't know who he was having a conversation with, but it turns out that the year that he took the SAT, the board that gives out the test and whatnot, every certain amount of years they do like a review on the scores and all these things. Turns out that year they gave 13 people the wrong scores, and his score was actually like a 700, which is like terrible. Yeah, and I want to tie this to what you said about believing in yourself, because like he got the wrong score, but he started believing in himself that he could do these things, and he changed, right? So when I heard the story, I was like, this is absolutely amazing, right? Like what one thought can do for you for the rest of your life. And we often talk about, how do we, gain awareness? And awareness is the beginning of the journey, right? But awareness is very powerful because it's giving you the opportunity to now start taking the choices that can take you to the right spot. So I love that you identify that in that conversation, in the sense like, hey, dude, like I know myself, I know my value, I know what I can do and where I can go, right? And so this is my encouragement for those that are listening right now. If somebody tells you something that might not feel as good with you, it's okay. Just make sure you look inside, ask yourself the questions: what do I want? What do I feel happy doing? Where do I want to go? And just keep pursuing that.
I have a follow-up question to that. I think you kind of answer it with that comment, but also, we seek external validation, right? And we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes we're not in the right environment to do so, right? So A famous example that we've shared in the past for us has been like on the publishing side. We're like, hey, should we do this podcast alone or with like or together, right? And our coach at the time, like a $25,000 mastermind that we invested in, the guy was like in front of like 60 other people, like, you guys should choose one person, right? And we were like, oh man, that hurt at the time, right?
Yeah, it was clearly going to be me because I'm the better looking one. But
If you want to believe that, Fonzie, I'll give you that one.
I believe it. I don't need anybody else to tell me it. Otherwise,
You don't need the external validation, right?
right.
Full circle.
Circle.
Boom.
But at the time, right, like he was giving that advice from a place of his own experience, right?
Mhm.
Because like that was his framework, how he was able to do it, and we figured out a way on how to do it together, right? And I think like this is how we've been able to be actually very successful with the show is because of that one thing, right? So I'm at a point today where I'm very jealous on where I ask those questions or who do I ask those questions to. How have you tackled that in your business, right? Like you said, that was your light bulb moment, but then how do you decide to go after, like when you started your podcast, right? Where do you take your advice from? How do you, like, who do you listen to? Like, should I actually even, ask the question or should I go research on my own? Like, do you have a framework that you go off of to make these decisions?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you what that is. Okay. First of all, you need to know something about me, and that is that I shoot from the hip.
Yes.
I when I want to do something, I just make the decision and do it. And this goes all the way from, getting my MBA was like a split of the moment decision, right? To choosing toilet seats at Home Depot. Like I just do it. But here's the thing, that's not usually enough. Because many people, I know so many people that know about themselves that they could do anything they put their mind to. The problem is that they don't do it and that they don't do it consistently, right? That they give up way too quickly. So I want to piggyback off of what Fonzie was saying earlier, because I did have a friend who, when I started the whole coaching thing, I had a 4-month-old baby at home. I was planning my very first launch, my very first webinar, and he sends me a message saying, "Hey, let's have lunch and talk about business." And I was so excited because this is the first person in my real life who's acknowledging that I'm doing something and maybe he wants to do something with me. I got daycare for my baby, and I'm like, okay, I really need time to focus on this webinar, but I think this is important. So I dropped everything I was doing, headed down to Boston, and met up with him. And I'm like, I'm so excited. Like, what do you have in mind? Like, what do you want to talk about? And he
Yeah.
tells me, yeah, I just wanted to tell you that what you're doing seems a little scammy to me. And I'm like,
Oh no.
and my face dropped. Number one, because like this is a friend of mine who's clearly telling me like he doesn't believe in what I'm doing. But number two, because I'm like, I don't have time for this. I
Yeah.
have a webinar to do in 2 days. Like, why am I here explaining something to you that you're not going to understand? And one thing that he said was, yeah, and I'm here trying to explain what coaching is, right? I'm like, well, in coaching, you help people go from A to B. And he's like, yeah, but realistically speaking, those outcomes are not going to be possible for most people. And I'm here like, but who is the person who dictates that? You? Like, who is out
Yes.
there? Which deity is out there deciding this is not possible for you and it is possible for you?
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of my a therapist, actually, out of all people. Like, I had a therapist who was like, her mind was blown by the stuff that I did, and she didn't understand it. She's like, yeah, Ina, but I'm a business coach. She's like, but what if somebody, like a client, comes up to you and tells you a really bad business idea? Like, would you encourage them? And I'm like, well, give me a bad business idea. What would be a bad business idea? And she's like, what if they want to be a dog medium, right? And I'm like, I would show them how to do that online. Like, who am I to tell
Yes.
them? Who am I to tell them that they can't be the top celebrity dog medium. You have any idea how many people love their dogs and would love to talk to them in the afterlife and get their energy? Like I promise you, there's somebody out there making
Yes.
bank with this idea. I
Yeah.
am not. I feel like every client that comes my way is Oprah in the making, is Oprah when she was 7 years old. Who am I to go and tell Oprah, but listen, there's just not place for Black women on TV? Like,
Mm.
I'm not going to be the
Yes.
one to tell little Oprah that. I'm going to tell little Oprah, you know what? You go, girl. Let me show you how it's done. I
Yeah.
don't care what your business idea is. If you believe in it, you can do it. So if I were to tell, like, how I figured this thing out is realizing that it wasn't just about doing, it wasn't just about wishing, it wasn't just about believing in myself, because I spent an
Mm.
entire year
Yeah.
believing in myself and working on a freebie that never saw the light of day. I was creating an entire freebie on how to publish your podcast completely for free, and this was about the time that Google Drive was just starting out, and you
Yeah.
could link to files in Google Drive, like before it
Wow.
became like you're linking to a page that links to a file. You could actually target specific files in Google Drive. Like, you could totally host a podcast out of this. And I wrote an entire freebie. It took me an entire year, never saw the light of day. Why? I was doing the things, but I didn't have any clear direction. I didn't know where I wanted to go with this. So I didn't know what it meant to actually create a solid foundation and continue building on it. I was just doing things.
Yeah.
So when I finally got to quit my job, because I got screwed over for the last time, and that's a completely different story. When I finally quit my job, it was about just having the grit, just understanding that as long as I don't quit, I will be okay. It doesn't matter what this thing, what shape this is like Play-Doh right now, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And every year is going to take a different shape, and that's okay as long as I don't quit. I've been featured on so many podcasts that are no longer like live anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right. And I look at it, I'm like, but I'm still here. So it's a contest of who is going to make it to the finish line. And I'm gonna be here every day.
Yeah, I
I
mean, we've talked about that, about longevity, right? Like
Longevity.
the business and the podcast that lasts longer probably is gonna win, right? And I mean, we've talked about this plenty of times as well. Is that quick win mindset that a lot of people have nowadays, right? They think that everything has to be overnight success, or like, let me just go
Correct.
viral, when in reality it's just that consistent action, right? Like, let
Yeah.
me just show up consistently, and honestly, like, the results just start compounding, right? Like, you start
Exactly.
building more relationships over time that start introducing you to more people, and then more opportunities start coming your way. But people want that on, on a 3-month plan. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
there's plenty of room to
Yeah.
grow in here.
I mean, I think the audio episode that I released today, we were talking about, how we need to also be proactive probably at the beginning of that stage to start seeing those results and
Mhm.
start continue to believe. I remember a very specific month that we started questioning the show, and the show was about like older than a year, right? And we're like, should
Mhm.
we continue to do this, right? And we were struggling to see the connection, and it was not the show itself, it was like the process after that was broken. But we had to go look back and be like, what's the connection between the show that we're questioning right now and the business and the revenue? And at the time, we literally just crossed like 6 figures, and we looked at each other and we're like, wait, what? And it was because obviously, like, revenue wise, yeah, and also to run the business, we weren't seeing the profit. So the process of the podcast was not broken, it was the business side. So we were able to identify where that was, and then we made decisions to kind of fix that. But the belief that the show worked was based on just fluff, right? Because we're like, I think it works, but how can we actually do that? And just the act of looking back and creating that connection. And I remember having this conversation with Alex Sharfen when he came to the show. Amazing, awesome coach that we met in person also in Montana with George. But he talks a lot about this concept of entrepreneurs are these brave people that you can actually see the future, grab it, and bring it to the present, right? Make it happen. And that's so powerful, right? And we're like, okay, well, that's where we want to go. Sweet, let's just make it happen. And right now, I think like we're being more aware of where do we actually want to go, like what do we want to do, and those are not easy conversations, right? Because sometimes we just don't know. But at the same time, it's like, how do we actually recraft or maybe reframe what success is, right? Sometimes we have this crazy idea. I'm like, okay, well, success is just, let's say, first step of success is publishing. First step of success is starting that crazy company that you thought it was crazy, right? Like, what is that first step? So how do you
wait, before you ask a question here, okay? I just have a thought that I wrote
Go
down
ahead,
here
Franz.
about making
Yeah.
choices. Honestly, it's the first time that this thought hits my mind. So thank you for the inspiration.
Of course.
But you know, people try, and this is me, honestly. Like, this is more a self-reflection of myself. I try to like maximize every choice that I make, right? And I ended up not knowing what choice to make. A lot of times I'm like, oh man, should I get pistachio ice cream or the coconut ice cream, right? AKA Talenti ice cream. Go get it. It's the best ice cream that's out there in the
Talenti
world,
sponsor us.
right? But the choice right now is coconut. Coconut is top. But the point is, I realize that sometimes by trying to maximize every choice that I have to make, I get to this place that when I actually make a choice, I'm wondering more if the other choice would have been better, right? You have like choice making remorse, right? Instead of buying remorse, it's like choice making remorse, where you're like, oh man, and you don't really enjoy something, and then maybe you don't have the guts to like pivot a little bit and try another thing. So I'm tying this to a previous thought that I heard from Jeff Bezos. He says every choice in your world, like there's only like two choices in your life that you cannot like take back, pretty much, right? Like everything else, you can literally, make a choice. If it doesn't work, like it's not gonna affect anything. You just go and do something else. So I think what you mentioned right there, like taking action quickly, making these choices quickly, is extremely important for everything, specifically in business, right? And I'm thinking on what we have to do now with the HubSpot podcast network, and how we're going to build, and all these other things that we need to do. And I'm like, we need to take some choices quick. Like, how are we going to promote? Okay, cool. Let's try this thing, instead of like trying to maximize the chance. Like, what is the absolute best option? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to know which one is best unless you try them all. And you're probably never going to try them all. So
I think that we have to get out of that. I love that you said this, because we have to get out of that mentality that there is a perfect way to do X, Y, Z, because there isn't, and you're not going to come up with it. If you and I start a new business, start something new, right? And you spend the next 6 months researching and analyzing and picking the right colors and picking the right ideal client and getting more courses, right? Getting more certifications. And on the same day that we both started, I just started doing. By the end of the 6 months, I will already have a kick-ass online presence that is being tested every day. I'm already getting clients. I'm already practicing on the go, right? Making decisions and pivoting quickly while you're still in decision mode. So 6 months later, I'm going to be way ahead of you, because your perfection paralysis just got you stuck. Even though you think, no, this is the smart way to do things, I say just do it and learn on the job.
Here's a few examples. I love this topic because it ties perfectly on the main headline that we put in for the episode, right? Building your 6-figure business or more, even, right? With less than 1,000 followers. A lot of people attach the success to that metric, which it's a complete craziness. It's like, get out of here. Like I was Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. What is it? What is the thing that he says? I don't know, like madness. Anyways, but here's a couple of examples, right? We have this sales letter that we wrote like 6 years ago, and I call it the 6-figure sales letter, right? And people are like, oh my gosh, give me the 6-figure sales letter. This is amazing. And then I give it to them, and it's like this poorly written story about how this guy walked into a fitness studio when I was a fitness studio manager, right? And he had a pen, and that pen, we gave it to him like 3 months ago, and he saw that pen every single day. And then he came into the studio and he's like, this is the thing I gotta do to lose weight. Like, my kid is counting on me, and all this like very emotional story, right? By the way, my English 5 years ago was very broken, right? Like, this is like no good, and I thought it was incredible, right? And then we tell the whole story, and we're like, this is what we do, right? At the time, and at the time, the show was not a thing. Like, the business was, we're freelancing, doing multiple things. And at the end, it was like the service, which it wasn't listed there. It was like the service is $3,000 a month, right? And then basically like a little field for them to send the email, right? That's it. That was the page. That page was the bistros.co homepage for a long time, for years. I think probably, when was it, in Orlando this year, we actually took it down. And the reason we had that page is there not because of the results were so amazing, because not one email came from that website in years, but because we were proving to people that we could actually sell and provide an amazing service and build a business with something like that, it didn't matter. Because a lot of the thing that were coming our way were like, well, we need a website, and we need this, and then we need the other, and when we're starting up, that adds a lot of friction. That was the same story with the show, right? We thought we needed the equipment, we thought we needed the two cameras, right? We thought we needed the lights and the things and the post-production and all this thing, and that just prevented us from taking action. And then the way that we solved it was like, okay, how do we remove the friction? For us was, let's just do it live. There's a reason we do this show live. If we don't do it live, I promise you, that we're not going to do the show. But
I'm totally with you. I completely understand what you're talking about.
we got this. We got this.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, obviously in business, how can people start identifying their friction points? Like we share this a lot. I'm very interested in your side of things. Like we go through publishing. We're currently running a coaching program, a coaching program, and a couple of the people that we have there, they come in and be like, "This is my idea of the perfect show." Boom, right? And it's like, okay, well, we've been publishing for 2 years and we don't have that, right? And like we want to get this up in 2 months. What? So we start going through this process. Like, what adds friction? Like with you, like we measure capacity. Like, do you have a team? Is it just you? Like, what is it? Right? On the publishing side, that's pretty solid. I'm very interested. How do you start removing friction with the people that you help, right? Like on the coaching aspect, on the business aspect, right?
Well, let's start with identifying the friction first. Anything that is preventing you from showing up, and I specifically speak to online business owners, right? If you have a business online, you need to be online, right? And I see so many accounts because I scout, right? I study accounts and I see
Yeah.
new business owners and how they handle their accounts. And what happens is they put all of these pressures on themselves first, right? You just set them the website, publishing a post multiple times a day, doing at least 10 stories per day. I need to have the YouTube channel. Oh my God, should I be publishing the podcast too? I need to also go live. Like there's all these things that they're seeing, and they're being fed this information, and they feel like, okay, I need to have everything perfect because I'm a perfectionist. And they say this like they're proud of it. Like, I'm a perfectionist. Therefore, I'm like, no, a perfectionist to me is a 4-letter word. For being a perfectionist to me means that you don't get anything done, that you are so worried about things being perfect that I'm never going to see anything from you. So I never want to hear you say that you're a perfectionist. I want to hear you say that, that you have high standards. You guys, I have the highest standards in the world, but there's nothing that prevents me from just shooting out a post if, inspiration strikes.
Yeah.
So first point is identifying friction when it pertains to your goals. What is your goal? Do you want to have the best podcast out there? Then I want to see an episode in the next week, right? I don't want to see an episode in 6 months. I want to see an episode now, and I want to see you start to figure out how
Yeah.
you're going to do this on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, I've also seen people who put so much pressure on themselves and put such high standards on themselves that it's almost like they fail. They make it's How do I explain this one? They do not even meet their own standards. Like, they set themselves up for failure. Basically, they say, if I'm going to do this, it has to be done this way, right? And this way that they feel like it has to be done is like completely, like, not even possible for them where they are right now, because they don't have enough money to invest at that level, right?
Mhm.
Or because they don't have enough time because they have a full-time job, but they say, no, 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 I have to do it this way, right?
Yeah.
I have to. If I'm going to show up online, I want to show up online with the best branding and showing up every day and everything. And if I don't do it that way, then I can't do it at all. And like,
Yeah.
that's a problem. So
Yeah.
you're going to start identifying your friction points as soon as you say to yourself, okay, I'm just going to let go of everything I put before the action, the website, the posting, everything, and I'm just going to do it today. Go ahead and do it today. You guys say that, you record this live because otherwise it wouldn't happen. It's the same thing with me right now. In my podcast, I do seasons of interviews. And then I also do a solo episode on Thursdays, right? And I'm going to tell you, during the interview season, it's really hard for me to get that Thursday episode out because I leave it for the last minute because it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Now that I'm not doing interviews, you know what I'm doing? I'm going live every Monday. And that is the episode that goes out on Thursday, right? I need
Studio
to,
class. Yes.
right? I need to figure out a way to make this easy for myself. I see other podcasts that are so highly produced. I was just on the Grow the Show podcast and I just listened to it yesterday. And by the way, I realized how fast I talk just yesterday. This was a new realization for me how fast I talk. I was listening to it yesterday. I'm like, wow, this is like really like perfectly produced. Like it sounds like an NPR
Yeah.
podcast. And I'm here thinking of my little podcast. We just do an interview, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's an interview and it has a beginning and it has an end and like that's it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel bad about that at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do it the way that it has to get done for me to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to touch base on that, right? And that all that you just mentioned aligns with a concept that we have that is called the publishing pyramid. And pretty much is you cannot have the pyramid built if you don't have a foundation, right? And the foundation is a message. But most people look to start at the top, which is with the resources on let me have all this perfect thing, all this content machine. Well, do you have like you said, the money or the time, right? There's two main resources to grow. Usually people don't, right, when they're starting.
Yeah.
And they fall off the wagon, right? So
Right.
let's start at the very beginning. You need a compelling message. And how do you get a compelling message? By practicing, right? By
Practice.
going live. You got to take action. You got to get feedback from the
Yeah.
people that you're talking about. Do they like it? Do they not like it? Right? Does it resonate with them? Does it not resonate with them? And then you start building up from there until you start getting more resources, right? You start either getting people now paying you for your services, and now you got money to invest on your production and you can improve your production. Because at the end of the day, nobody is going to listen to a extremely well produced show that has no meat to it, right? That is just like blah. Like nobody's gonna listen to it.
Yeah.
You need the quality of the message before any other thing, before quality of the production.
Go
Can
ahead.
can I just say something that I really wish everybody could really hear us and understand this, that the successful people that you see out there, you're seeing them 10 years later, right? When they started, they didn't start with all the fancy things. It wasn't even fast. So many of them were grinding for an entire year, for 2 years. There is someone that I really admire. Her name is Janice Torres Rodriguez, and she's the host of the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast. And she reached her financial independence figure, right? She officially doesn't
Nice.
have to work for a living. But guess what? This is 8 years in the making of her business. The
Yes.
first 2 years of her business, when she started her blog, she was making zero money. 2 entire years. So if anybody gets anything out of this, it's understanding that, you know what, it's okay to start small. It's
Yeah,
okay to not
absolutely.
go to the 10K months in 3 months, otherwise I'm a failure. It's okay to spend a
Mm.
year trying to figure out. For me, my first 3 years in business, every single year I had a different message because I adjusted, because I would hear, okay, what is working and what isn't, I'm gonna change this. What is working, what isn't, I'm gonna change this. The Global Phenomenon is not my first podcast, it's my fourth podcast. My third podcast was Trailblazing Out of Corporate Life, but when I started it, it was called Corporate Trailblazers, which sounded like I was helping corporate people inside corporate, when really I wanted to get corporate people to get out of their jobs. So on episode 50 episodes in, I changed the name, I changed the branding, I updated the message. 100 episodes later, I realized I want to reach the entrepreneurial audience. Corporate is no longer serving me, and the Global Phenomenon was born. So,
Yeah.
I'm so happy to celebrate the fact that 2021 to 2022 was the first year that I actually felt like, you know what, I have a solid message, I have a
Yes.
solid infrastructure, and I want to stick with it for
Yes.
2022. It's the first time ever in my business that I have felt that way about anything that I do. And it
That's
took
amazing.
this long.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I resonate so much with this. because so many people get hung up on that, right? Like, and I something that you mentioned earlier about setting those expectations, right? I see it happening with the companies that we work with, which some of them $700 million, billion-dollar companies, right? That we see the back end of what's happening, and then with the one-on-one people that we might take, or like the group coaching people that are coming into our world, like on publishing, right? At the end of the day, it's like, how do we measure those resources? How do we set those expectations, right? And it's funny, I would never forget this meeting I had with a person that I highly respect, right? And they came actually on the show, and it was awesome. And we were trying to figure out like if we were a good fit to work with each other. And they're in the real estate space, and they're like, we want to be the Mr. Beast of real estate, right? And I'm like, well, if you're not, are you familiar with Mr. Beast?
No,
No.
Tell me
Mr.
about it.
Beast is the fastest growing YouTube in the history of YouTube. Like, millions of subscribers in every single channel that he has. He has in different languages, but he's also been publishing for I think 11 years is now. But he gives away he did a video. We talked about it the other day about
He
What-
gives away a lot of money in his videos.
one of his latest videos in his main channel cost him $4 million. That's how much he invests per video, right? So, I'm having this conversation with a person that's starting to publish. I'm like, the Mr. Beast of real estate. Well, the first question, I'm like, do we have 11 years, right? Like, I'm totally okay
Do
with
we
you.
have $4 million to invest in the next video?
So it's
And if so, we will be very happy to produce it for you.
and
Right.
it's trying to understand those things and
Yeah.
the people that we might look up to, right? Like a lot of podcasters see Joe Rogan as a massive inspiration, right? But he's also been published for 11, 12 years, right? Like it's crazy the amount of time that people are investing, right? And we heard Russell Brunson, the ClickFunnels founder, in an event once, and he was saying, hey, are you willing to endure long enough to be discovered, right? And he has this example of Netflix and shows that are there for 6 seasons, 7 seasons, right? And people just discover them now. I mean, we just finished watching season 30 of The Amazing Race. And it was like the first time in like 7 years that we watched an episode, and we're like, wow, like they've been going for 30 years, and we just now like rediscover the show, right? So it's like, how can we first mentally, right? Like that's a decision that we have to make to be able to do that, right? And then how do we set up the business or your life to be able to sustain that, right? Because if we remeasure or like reestablish our priorities to the point that we're like, okay, here's my capacity, these are my resources, this is my time of the week that I have to create, this is my time of the week that I have to distribute, right? We have to be very honest with that conversation and be like, this is how I'm going to be able to sustain it for this year. And then we revisit, and then we go year 2. And as you're telling your journey with your 4 podcasts, I think that's such a powerful lesson, because you're staying nimble, you're staying flexible, you're accepting that you're in growing mode. Same with us. Before the show, we had Bruce and Bros, right? And that lasted 5 episodes, and they didn't see the light of day. I spilled a beer over my computer, but it was the same thing. That was a show that showed us that friction was there with the editing and the 2 cameras and setting up the room for like an hour beforehand. So those lessons are there, and hopefully people can understand and be like, okay, how do we bring it down? Same with companies, right? How do we bring it down? Or invest in the resources if you have the capacity to invest, right?
I just have
important.
I just have this like general advice for anybody who has a full-time job and they want to start something new. Once you start something new, you start to feel like, oh, I don't want to be at my job anymore. I want you to kind of flip that message to yourself and remind yourself that your full-time job is what's making your passion possible, right? That's where your funding is coming from. So before you start thinking, no, I need to quit to devote all my time to this, no, enjoy the fact that you can do both, and just start at a smaller scale and redefine what success is to you. Because I don't know if you guys have heard this metric, but 80% of new podcasts get abandoned after the 3rd episode. And this is because that friction that you guys are talking about is real. If I spend 6 months, quote unquote, researching what my podcast should be about and what the right name should be, and creating the cover image, and really getting the courage to put my voice out there. Because a lot of people are like, oh my God, as soon as I put my voice out there, my boss can see it, and my sisters can see it, and my parents can see it, and my former boyfriends can see it. And, we put all this pressure that once the episode goes live, we feel like it's automatically getting live streamed to all of those people's ears, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, when you first launch, it's a lot of crickets. So after you
Yeah.
put all of that work, you've put out 3 episodes and you don't see that, well, people are not really watching. People are not really going to care if I skip a week. People are not really going to care. Nobody's really listening to this anyway. That's how they die. So you got to start with that. I love it that Fonzie said the word longevity, because that's my favorite word in business, is remembering that the people that you're finding out about right now, right? You guys, I just found out about you, and you have 260 episodes in your podcast. And it's like I'm new to the podcasting world and I just found you. So you gotta
Mhm.
think of it as having just grit, as just saying the only way to fail is to quit. So guess what? I'm just not gonna quit. This is what I'm gonna stick with for the next year, and then I'll decide what
Yeah.
worked, what didn't, should I tweak, should I not, and then try something new if I want. But you gotta give things a fair year, even if you're not making any money. You gotta give that passion a
Yeah.
fair try.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
it.
So we're getting close to the end, but I want to, deliver
I know,
on the
right? It went
promise.
so
of
fast.
the hook. Yeah,
And I feel Fonzie's because the joke is he gets very excited at the end of the shows and he continues to ask questions. And this time it was flipped. It was me. And didn't
No.
you see his eyes like right here? He's like,
No,
dude.
it's
It
actually
was
because
so
I want to talk about the engagement and building the six figures,
Right.
1,000 followers. Because I mean, we've covered great stuff, right?
Here's an idea.
Well,
This is all
well,
necessary, by the way. This was all
Yeah.
building blocks. This was
Exactly.
necessary for the
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, all these building blocks are gonna help us get there, right? Like take swift action, right?
Yeah.
Quickly removing that friction, right? Trying a lot of things to see which
Doing it.
one is my favorite. Like all these things are gonna help out, right? But I'm sure. And we love talking here about like frameworks and the tactics. Not so much of the tactics, if I'm being honest. More on the principles. Yeah, we actually
Yeah.
don't really enjoy that word that much. More on the principles that
Yeah.
lead to success. So
Totally.
I just want to spend some time going into those principles that allowed you, right, to build your business with a sub 1,000 follower account. Because like my brother said, a lot of people attach business success or business growth to a big following.
Yeah. And sorry, because I know Luis that really, really wanted to say something.
He cannot speak anymore. He cannot speak anymore.
There's a section called in the show Fonzie choke the mic. So that's just what just happened. He just
Okay.
trampled over me. Here's my idea. Maybe we do it, maybe we don't. I don't know. Private training on this on the Facebook group. Just gonna
Okay,
put that out there.
100%.
Okay, so we're gonna talk
Anytime.
about this for a little bit. We're gonna plant the seed. I think is necessary.
This is the thing, and I just
Oh.
discovered this about my brother. He's like the most clickbaity guy that there is in the world. He's like, yeah, let's put this in the thumbnail and never talk about it. I'm like, no, that's just a straight clickbait,
Wait,
I'm game for doing like an actual training
I
on
mean,
this.
I'm down for the
Okay.
and
training.
he's lying, by the way, because we did talk about it. The last episode, the slap was fake. We did talk about it. I don't know what slapped, but hey. Anyways, all right.
Okay.
Back to reality. Come on, Fonzie.
No, let's non principles of nonviolent communication. Everybody need to be met. So my personal need is not to be super clickbaity. So we're gonna talk about it right now.
Okay.
Your need is to have the training, so we're gonna have the training, right?
Yes.
And Ina's need is, I mean, what's your need? You're awesome. What else?
My need is to just be here hanging out with you guys. My need
Let's
is being
go.
met. My need is being met. I'm okay.
All right.
But I do want to give you, because this is the title of the episode. So let's give the people what they need. Okay.
Yeah, people are
okay.
cheering.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy.
So 6 figures with a tiny audience. That's what when I say a tiny audience, I mean fewer than 1,000 followers anywhere. So here's the deal. I'm just gonna tell you something that I realized, and I didn't realize when I was in it. So I'm hoping that some people hear this and they're like, oh my God, that's me right now. while I was building my business, I was getting out there and meeting people. Okay. I was creating my own stages. I wasn't waiting for somebody to give me permission to be on their podcast. I was nobody. Nobody was going to have me anywhere. So I created my own stages. I live in Boston. I set up the website, which, by the way, don't go to. I'm not even going to give you the URL. Anyway, I was very proud. I was very proud that I owned that URL, by the way. And I started teaching about podcasting in the Boston area. And I started to get myself on stages locally. And I'm not saying like other people. I'm not saying conferences. I'm saying I would rent a room in my town and I would put out a Facebook ad and I would invite people to kind of like, hey, who wants to come and learn about podcasting? And I would get some people show up and some of them would turn into clients, right? So I started to really get out and really grind it. If I had an inspiring idea for getting myself out there, I would go and do it and try it and see what happens. So while all of that is happening, right, while I'm getting out there meeting people and getting known and getting clients, at the same time, I have the same bug in my brain that everybody else has, that I need to have a large audience. Otherwise, I'm not going anywhere, right? So what did I do? While I was making money in my business, I started to take all of the money I was making and drop it into growth activities that were not working for me. Okay. I started to invest in every course, right? I bought courses on how to be a star on YouTube, on how to be a star on Facebook pages. I bought a course on how to grow on Facebook pages. I'm like, who cares about Facebook pages? Well, apparently I did. I bought every course. Like anytime that anybody would talk about Facebook ads, I would go and sign up. I worked with an agency for Facebook ads when I didn't have any Facebook history. Like Facebook as an algorithm had no idea who were the people that resonated with my message because I hadn't been consistent enough with it yet. I'd
Yeah.
only been in business for like 5 months. Facebook ads were not going to work at that stage, but I'm like, hey, I got $3,000 to burn. So I gave them to an agency. It didn't work. I was seriously dropping serious money on coaches, on programs, on courses to grow my audience. To this day, I have right now like 1,182 followers. Okay. My mailing list is 600 something on my mailing list. Like my audience is really small. So I'm going to tell you, at the end of 2020, I was angry. I was so angry. And I wrote a message to my audience and I told them how angry I was that all the money, like I had already reached six figures in my business, and all of the money, I never got to keep any of it because I was dropping in all these growth activities that were not working. And I said at the end of 2020, I am done. This, like, that's it. Why? It doesn't make any sense for me to be putting all my money on something that is not working, right?
Mhm.
Because people keep telling, no, if you put money in, the universe is going to give it back to you, right? Like that's what you hear. No, the universe is going to pay it back. No, like you gotta know about ROI. And back then, when I was investing really heavily in the first 3 years of my business, ROI was like a four-letter word to me. It's like, no, 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 because you never know what's going to happen when you invest and you can't really be thinking. Now I see ROI not as a guarantee that I'm going to get a return in that investment. I see it more as, is this what I need
Mm.
right now? Is this what my business needs to run to grow right now? Or am I buying this program because the price is going to go up next time and I don't want to miss out, right?
Yeah.
Or because I feel like I really need this and I'm probably not even going to act on it because I'm already invested in 7 other programs until like 6,000. Like, why am I doing that to myself? So 2020, at the end of 2020, I said, I'm done. And I completely changed my strategy of investing in myself. And I said, I'm going to bank on the things that are working. And this is where I started the Instagram account, Your Engagement Coach. This is where I started to really focus on all the things that were working before to get me clients. And that's what I preach now. And I went from negative for the first 3 years to 30% profits in 2021 just by doing that, right? So, first things first, if everybody's listening to me and you are getting yourself into debt because you're trying to grow your audience, you're not there yet. You do not need to grow your audience yet. What you need right now is to solidify your message, how you're going to meet people so that people can go from followers to leads to clients, right? And what is it that you're selling them, and make sure that it works. Make sure you're actually getting results for people. This is the big piece for this, this whole monetizing a small audience part is that we see other people putting out a Facebook ad and making a ton of money with their launches, right? And they think that people go from being a follower to being a client. That is rarely the case. I get messages from people saying, "Oh my God, I need to work with you." But that's not how I plan my business. That's not part of my business plan. My plan is to take my followers and turn them into leads. And if I sit down with you to review your business, I'm going to ask you, don't give me your list of followers. I want to see your leads and I want to see how warm they are and how hot they are. And if
Yeah.
you don't have that list, then you got to start readjusting how you approach engagement online. I want to see leads because that
100%.
is going to be my pipeline to my program. Anyway, I can talk about this
I love it.
forever,
Yeah.
but that gives you a little bit of like, what are the things that actually work here?
Absolutely.
I think this is a spark for a lot of people, right? Because is that when we had a very similar experience. I think my personal account and Instagram is probably where I'm most active. 1,100 people maybe. Bezos
Mhm.
just passed 1,000. Do we care? No.
You're so popular.
So popular. Do we care? No, but also the people that are coming in. Here's, I
That's
mean,
it.
this tip came from Adam Shalvey, right? Like he was
Yeah.
like, dude, every person that comes in is a person that's actually taking time of their life to actually go and follow you because they actually value what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
So why don't you send them a quick message and say hello and say thank you and hey, very nice to meet you. Like, what a blessing to be
Right.
able to do that today. Like, how awesome. And guess what? Some of the people that we've done that with, some people respond, some people don't. Some people respond and then they come to the show and then we
They-
become
they-
really good friends.
They don't respond to you?
Sometimes I've had people that, and that's okay. Like maybe they don't see it. Like who knows, right? But at the
Yeah.
end of the
Right.
day, it's like this was awesome. I mean, we just had this conversation with a guy in Australia. This the incredible guy that's gonna be coming to a show in like 2 weeks. Like an introduction on social too. Somebody that came into
Yeah.
the show that they followed. We have the capacity to actually make those connections, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and we actually, maybe ask for feedback. And maybe you're in a stage where you need a ton of feedback, right?
Yeah.
And what an opportunity. So it's
Yeah.
you,
And
how
do
do you
you think
flip it?
do you really think that Joe Rogan is sitting there like talking to people on the DMs? Like, no. With small audiences, we actually have that luxury. He can't. If he went on his podcast and said, "Hey, send me a DM and tell me what you think the next guest should be," he would get swamped. He would never be able to get back to them. With a small audience, we have the luxury of being able to talk to our audience. And yeah, like you said, it's such a privilege. It's wonderful that we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're at a stage that we can actually humanize our brands.
Yeah.
And,
Almost
relate
like
to people at a deeper
don't
level.
follow. Just like don't follow. No.
Yeah. Every time somebody follows me, I tell them, thank you. Don't follow my brother so I can have more followers than him. Nah, I'm
Yeah,
kidding, I'm
good
kidding.
luck with that. Good luck. I'm the one that actually responds. I send Fonzie a text message and it doesn't respond to me in like 4 days.
Yeah.
We see each other here. But
yeah. I need an engagement coach just so I can answer to my brother.
Right? You gotta figure that out, man.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
too cool for school, not responding.
too cool, too cool.
No, I comment on your post the other day. I'm like, oh, all I do is send voice notes at first, right? Because one of your rules is like, do not start with a voice note. I was like,
Yes.
oh, man, that's what I do every single time.
And
Like,
I
always
love
do the
and I
voice note.
loved it that you asked that question. I'm like, okay, opportunity to come and tell us. Yeah, I had a reel
Absolutely.
where I'm like, okay, the 10 commandments of DM etiquette. And yeah, one of them was don't
So good.
start with a voice note. And the reason, like, we have to understand that because everybody that we talk to is already getting talked to by a lot of other people who want to sell them stuff, we get put in that in
Bucket.
that blob of people, of marketers, unless we prove otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So when we send a message, people are going to be waiting, okay, where's the pitch, right? So I tell people, if you guys want me to tell you a tip on how to avoid being in that blob, you want me to tell you a
Yeah.
tip
Do
for
it,
that?
do it, do it.
Yeah.
Yes. Golden
Want a
bullet
tip?
time.
Here's a tip. Here's a tip. And we can totally go over this in a deeper training. But the way that you avoid being that person that they're like, okay, where's the pitch? Is when you respond to triggers rather than coming out of nowhere. So the fact that you guys are saying, yeah, when somebody follows me, I go like, hey, what's up? How's it going? That's great because the trigger was that this person was interested enough to hit follow. It wasn't like Instagram randomly drop these people in your account. Like this person made a choice to hit follow. That is a trigger that you can hang on to and you can say, hey, what's up, how's it going, right?
Yep.
Another trigger could be if they posted something on their stories that you related to, respond to it. If they posted something on their post and you write a comment, respond to that. So as long as you're responding to triggers, you won't appear like you came out of nowhere, and
Mhm.
it's going to be like an instant
Yeah.
genuine connection.
I love it.
Yeah.
Golden bullet moment. Golden
Yeah,
bullet
just
moment.
that best strategy, rather be genuine,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right.
be genuine
Um,
and care for the other person, and eventually that might transition into a sales conversation or another opportunity.
Yeah, we were on this training of one of our clients last night, and there was a similar thing that we are talking about as a group, right? And there's, I don't know if it's called a cultural thing or not, but there's this other gentleman that we've been working on, bigger people like that. That's probably like our biggest client at the very beginning, and it seemed like for him it was like, well, this is like how I'm naturally. I'm like Pablo. Shout out to Pablo. He was one of our first guests, right?
Bro.
Pablo. He's like, this is like one of our like, this is how I operate, right? And for us, we were educated also in a way where, we relate with everybody. We just how to be nice, guys, right? Like, and at the end of the day, and this was a very session very aimed to sales, right? So we're like, okay,
Mhm.
like how do actually we reframe the sales process, right? And this is not going for like that easy sell here. This is to going after corporate clients, millions of dollars. This is the long game. I want to really build that relationship, because once that relationship starts, right, there's a lot of moving parts or whatever. There's a lot of money on the table, and that has to be built on top of a very strong foundation. And it comes
Yeah.
down to that, like how do we actually build a genuine relationship? And what you're sharing right now is so important. So, and it doesn't come natural to a lot of people, right? Like, because
Yeah.
maybe for us, maybe it's natural because maybe that's the way that we got raised. But for a lot of other people, it doesn't. They don't make the connection, right? They make the division: business and personal life.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
one. It's one, right? We're dealing with ourselves here. We're dealing with people. But
Yeah, we're dealing
this
with people.
this is so good. Is this
Yeah.
gonna be a 2-hour episode? Because I mean, I'm totally down for it. But
Because I could talk about this like forever. So
yeah,
when I started this brand new account, by the way, because I totally blew up my old Instagram account, and I said nobody's engaging over there. People, I've been accumulating those people for a long time. They don't even know what I do anymore. So I actually started brand new with a new Instagram account back in June. So it's going to be a year very soon.
Nice.
And yeah, I started as your engagement coach because I realized if I'm going to be teaching people how to get clients first, how to get clients right away, how to let go of everything else and just start to get clients, it really starts with genuine engagement. So that
Mhm.
follow my account. This is my shameless plug in here to follow my account
yes.
and go and check out the videos that I have and go check out the reels, because I give you like every day that I sit down to write content for you, I'm like, what can I do to grab you by the shoulders and shake you
Yeah.
into coming to your senses, right? Like this is how you do genuine engagement so that people can stop messaging me with their pitches, because I'm not gonna respond to that.
So
Yeah.
where can people go? Drop the names. We're gonna put the links right below in the description where people can go and click on it. Like, where do we go? By the way, I've seen it. I'm obsessed. Like, it's so good.
Yeah,
So
your
good.
branding is really good too.
It's amazing.
Thanks. See,
Yeah.
high standards, but not perfectionism. You
Yes.
know, it
Yeah.
it happens.
I mean,
I'm
and
and I'm
it's repetition, I'm sure too.
I it, do you mean repetition that I like repurposing,
No, like
or you mean like
consistency. Like
consistency?
yeah, like you just do it multiple times and then you just improve on to the
You
next time.
improve on it, and guess what? Repurposing. I
Mhm.
have a bank of content, and I was able to get a social media manager to help me keep that content out there. Like you guys, every single post that you see me posting is not like I'm spending
Mhm,
24
mhm.
hours a day, 7 days a week on Instagram. Okay, I've built it up to that point. Okay,
Yep.
high standards but not perfectionism. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the links that you want to go to, you want to go follow me on Instagram, your engagement coach. And also, you know what I did? I had to create a freebie, right? Because we all need, like, a lead magnet, something that people can grab
Absolutely.
onto. And I thought, okay, what everybody really wants is, like a content calendar, like how to post better, how to post more, how to post more. But what do I post about? And I'm like, well, my interest really is for you to get into more conversations. I don't care about you posting more. I care about you posting in a way that is going to establish connections. So, you know what
Mhm.
I did? I wrote down a list of 100 engagement post ideas so that you can satisfy that itch that you have of like, okay, what do I post? But also get you in the driver's seat so that you can take control of your engagement. Because if it's just one pet peeve of mine is when people tell me, but Ina, nobody's engaging with my content. I'm like, are you really going to leave the future of your business in the hands of other people and whether they hit like or comment or follow? Like, engagement is something that you do, not something you wait for after you post. So if you want to grab that guide, go to 100postideas.com. That's 100postideas.com, completely free, and it's going to get you on your way to posting with the intention of creating connections.
Oh,
So I'll
so
leave that to you there.
good. Let's go.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Go get it there. Go get it there.
Yeah, I'm here right now. Actually, I just as you were spelling it, I was like, "Ooh, let me join in there. Let me put my name." Now you're about to have 600 and plus one on your email.
600 plus one. Yay.
Yeah, that is 601 for those that don't know too much math.
We don't do public math. Hey, last question of the show.
Ooh,
This has been
wait,
incredible.
wait. This is really cool. It's the first time I see somebody do this in an opt-in page. Ask
What?
for their Instagram username. That is genius. I love that. That
Well,
is
I want to
so
know
cool.
who you are, and email
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
it's
you're
harder to
gonna
get in touch with you. So
do you go in there and then send them not a voice note, obviously, because you don't leave with a voice note,
I
but
don't
you send them
lead
a
with a voice.
message like, hey, like, thank you so much for, did you get the 100 engagement post ideas? How do you like it? Do you do that?
Not every single time, but you know what I do like to do is when people sign up for my masterclass. So I teach a class called Get Clients with a Tiny Audience at tinyaudience.masterclass.com. I'm like giving you
Ooh,
guys all of my links.
yeah.
Tinyaudience.masterclass.com. So if somebody signs up for my masterclass, I definitely reach out and I tell them like, hey, make sure that you're going to be there live because I want to see you and talk to you because I always do a Q&A at the end, like a live Q&A at the end of the class. So I definitely use that field for sure. But no, it's not like you're going to hear from me as soon as you get the 100
Yeah.
post ideas. You can definitely get that in peace. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into your DMs. Just
For the
download the guide
internet,
and
yeah.
use it.
I love it though. I love it. And the page looks really nice. And I love the name of your masterclass. I think it's
Yes.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
got
think
you get
it's
you
really
got really good branding. You get really good positioning. We should do a whole different episode just on that too. I
Yeah.
think
And
that'd
you
be
know how long it took me to get here? All
a long
4 years. And
I thought you were gonna say a week.
if you add on the time that I spent
Yeah.
doing my side hustle of websites, then we're talking 10 years in the making. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want everybody to know that I didn't crawl out from
Mhm.
under a rock in 2022 and all of this was perfectly put together. It's taken time and
Yeah.
effort and consideration, and everything we just talked about is in action right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
You didn't crawl out of the rock. You were under the rock and you started slowly carrying it up.
Very
And now
slowly.
you're crushing it with your awesome business
Ten-
muscles.
10
So
years
I
later.
appreciate
Yes,
everything.
Amazing.
exactly.
Last question of the show. I mean, this has been a treat. You can send your kids a big hug and apologies because like we just want to keep talking to you. And
It's okay. My husband came home early so that we could do this. So big shout out to my husband for being the most supportive spouse in the world. I
Let's
love
go.
him to that. He's the best. I'll keep him for a while.
Yes, so needed. So awesome.
Yeah, tell him we love him too.
Yeah.
I'll tell him.
Creepy. What? Where will you be if you didn't publish?
Where would I be if I didn't publish?
And you just drop that question like that. It's like,
Yes. Boom.
Where would I be if I didn't publish? Is this a serious question? Because I can't imagine my life without being out there. I hope you're editing this because I should have thought about it before. Where would I be? You know what? I'd probably be out there teaching. I would be out there getting like renting $40 rooms wherever I can and teaching people whatever it is that I need to be saying through publishing.
Mhm.
I would just be out there doing it in person, which I should be out there doing it anyway. After the pandemic, I didn't do it anymore. I need to start doing that more.
Yeah.
That's where I would be.
nice.
Thanks for
You
sharing.
find me
Yeah.
somewhere out there teaching something.
Just so you know, we're not editing that. Like that was very powerful.
Yeah,
That was like a really pregnant pause right there.
yeah, we're living the silence and everything. It's just it puts more emphasis and intensity
So
Just
here's
on the moment.
add like a really suspenseful like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's why, right? Like this podcast has been the tool that allowed us to grow personally in like from inside as people. The business has grown to levels that before that was really hard for the first 6 years, right? We're like, what?
Right.
We have a team now. We're very proud of that. We're part of this amazing network that believes in us and invested in us, right? And without publishing, that would not be possible, right?
Yeah.
And this show has brought us some amazing relationships, some amazing connections, some amazing friendships, right? Like you. And it like if people ask that question, we're like probably longer silence, right? Because
It's like,
no
you know
idea,
what?
right?
You know what, Luisa? Where would you be without publishing?
Probably still trying to figure out what I want to do, like 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 but bouncing, right? Like because like this is the thing, that this is the anchor for.
Right.
We bounced for 6 years. It was so frustrating. We did, and it was amazing lessons, but at the same time, it was very hard. And I'm telling you, like this show started in 2020, right? Like, and it was the Hail Mary thing. It was like, here we go.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that we're gonna commit to. And as Fonzie, like part of our meetings are like, we gotta be consistent in many other ways, and this is the one thing that never fails, right?
Yeah. I would have been an astronaut, but I just decided to have a
Yeah,
podcast
you know.
instead.
I don't know. I often
This is better. You chose well.
Absolutely.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for asking it back, because like it's the first time that somebody asked these questions back to us. And I was reflecting a couple of days ago. I'm like, man, like content has been always been present. Like I remember, I love TV shows. I love consuming content. I love YouTube. I love all that. And I remember our dad's like, get up, get out and play and do. And we did for a long time. We played soccer, and like I'm super grateful for that. But I remember like, what can I do with like this thing? And I didn't know what content or whatever. So like in a sense that seed was always there. And I'm like, well, now it's funny. This morning I just sent a post to Katie about this soccer player that has three daughters, and the three daughters are born the same day. They're not triplets. It's like a year apart, but it's like same day.
Wow.
And Katie,
My
like,
sister and I have the same birthday.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's go.
Luca is on the 15th of this month, and Mateo's about to be born. Potentially, like there could be a possibility that it's the same day. So for Katie, it's like, oh my gosh, she wants to be induced and all
Yeah.
crazy.
But my sister's birthday is a day after mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. So, anyways, I sent this post, and immediately after I sent this post, Katie, with also one of the amazing spouses relationships that she truly believes in me. She's like, whatever you do, whatever. I don't understand what you do, but you go do your thing.
Shout out
to Katie.
Katie. If you ever listen to this,
Yeah, I know.
let me know, and I'll buy you a bag of pizza rolls. Let's see if she listens to this now.
Anyways, and I remember I sent it this morning. I'm like, oh man, like you're gonna be like, oh, you're working, whatever, and you're sending me this social post. And then immediately after, I'm like, this is my job. Like I scout for content. Like we do. This is the things that we bring on our Friday meetings with our teams every 2 weeks, so we can get better at the craft, at the production, right? And I'm like, this is the dream life, right? This is a step in that dream life. So I encourage everybody, go find that. Like go find that thing. If it's a podcast, awesome. If it's a business, awesome. If it's that idea that we were talking about earlier, awesome.
Dude, no, you just said it. Because when I was in corporate, I loved giving presentations, and I loved it. So when I discovered that this is a job, talking to you guys is my job. This is my job, being right here on camera talking to you guys. So I'm like, when I discovered, I'm like, wow, like I don't have to go to Hollywood. I don't have like go anywhere else. I can just be in my living room and like living the dream. I love video. I love creating content. When I was little, I did this. My parents got me a recorder, because the only way to do publishing in the early 1990s, it was through journalism. right? It wasn't like there was nothing, there was no social media. There was,
Yeah.
am I dating myself? I know that I'm way older than you guys. But when I was a little, there was no internet. So journalism was the only thing. They got me a recorder so that I could record like my shows. So technically I started podcasting when I was like 10 years old.
Yep.
Mind blown.
I'm blown. Another story to the Arsenal. Oh, this was so good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely. We're turning into a Joe Rogan podcast today. I love it.
I love
Just
it.
keep
Yeah.
going. Just keep it rolling.
I know. This was so awesome and so powerful too, because we relate. There's a lot of people out there trying to grab that traction, and I think today helped them. So thank you for those that stay all the way till the end, and go check Ina out. Go check those links. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna shortcut that journey massively.
Totally.
Come join the community as well. Content is profit.
We're gonna do the special training, right? Again, we needed to satisfy everybody's needs.
Let's do
So we're
this.
gonna do the training right here.
Full disclosure,
Yeah, so
you're
much
gonna be
to say.
you're gonna be the first training. I'm shooting from the hip right here. I'm shooting from the hip.
No, I hear you. You're speaking my language right now.
Let's
Yes.
go.
Hashtag pew pew.
Hashtag awesome. Anything else you want to add before we head out?
No, I just wanted to say congratulations, guys, on your deal with HubSpot. That is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
super happy for you guys. And thank you so much for having me, for putting the pink background. That was very, very thoughtful, you guys. No, it's been a pleasure. You're awesome. Thank you.
It's been absolutely amazing. The time went by super quick. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I really feel like we've only talked for like 20 minutes, and it's been an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
there was so much more to talk about.
absolutely.
So
I mean,
much
we know you'll be back for a second, third time. Eventually, we're gonna do one live there in
more.
Boston somewhere. It'll
Yeah.
Right?
It's dangerous. When Venezuelans come together, it's very dangerous, guys. It's very
Yeah.
dangerous. Very fun, but very dangerous. Fun.
Way too much energy.
Way too
Way
much.
Way too much.
I love it.
Yeah. No, I don't have anything else to add. I think it was an incredible episode. Thank you, Ina, so much.
Yeah.
You just share so many good things, and yeah, I just encourage people to listen to this episode plenty of times, and not just because they help us with the downloads number, but because it's gonna help you remember all these concepts, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Ina. Appreciate it.
Thank
Awesome,
you.
guys. Well, that was the episode. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite social media channels and podcasting platforms at Beast Bros Go.
That is right. And if Ina here help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode with 3 friends and leave us 5-star review.
Bye, guys.
I was gonna say leave an honest feedback, and then I was like, but a 5-star review too, and then I got all confused. I was like,
Okay, we got a tradition. We got selfie time. Selfie time.
Yeah.
We ready?
Let's do it.
All right.
for those that are still tuning in, make sure you smile too.
Yeah. We don't know how, but Facebook senses all their faces. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, not creepy at all.
All right. Bye, social media. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.
But
Ina, thank you. This is